So before we get started, this video is a long-awaited request by many of the Subscribe Star Bros. The Dead Rising 2 video is now almost a full year old. Yeah, I never even realized how fast time flew by for this. I mean, it feels like it came out 3 months ago. So it's time to talk about probably the most controversial of the Dead Rising series. It's not universally hated, but it's also not beloved, which honestly makes it probably the more interesting one.
Shit.
Dead Rising 3. So at this point, you guys know the setup. Dead Rising is a franchise from Capcom that used to rule the world during the 360 PS3 generation. You had a cult hit that went over a decent-sized fanbase when it dropped. Then you had the sequel that blew it up to levels beyond just being a quaint little zombie game with some quirks. And you also had a spin-off that kept momentum going into the next generation of consoles. Yeah, it's time to talk about the Xbox One, PS4 generation. Now, Dead Rising has always had a strange relationship with the console divide. Despite being a Japanese franchise, Dead Rising has always leaned closer to the Xbox side of things. The first game was a 360 exclusive, which allowed it to build a pretty good foundation due to how explosively popular the 360 was compared to the PS3, at least in the West. Dead Rising 2 was on both 360 and PS3, no longer just being an exclusive and allowing Dead Rising to stretch to further corners than the original. Plus, by the time 2 came out, all the technical issues with 360 were basically solved, so there wasn't any crippling problems the devs could get screwed over by that could get in the way of it being a runaway success. Well, you have two monumentally beloved games that are basically following the Alien formula. You have a horror-focused cult hit, a more action-leaning sequel that becomes the popular one. Yeah, we all know how the story goes. The third one is considered middling and controversial. And yeah, Dead Rising 3 falls into this pattern. You see, this game went back to the Xbox for an exclusivity deal, being one of the launch titles for the Xbox One. Already a rocky decision, since the Xbox had some serious growing pains during that console generation, dealing with one of the absolute worst marketing campaigns in gaming history, which sadly boils down to saying the quiet part out loud a little too early, since it bragged about always being online and not really allowing you to own your games. Common sentiments in the industry, on top of games getting more expensive. Which, I'll just say as a quick aside, when are we going to admit game prices are just price fixing? Rockstar is talking about how GTA 6 is going to be $100, which a bunch of industry heads trying to say it's deserved, and the Silksong devs caught a bunch of shit for pricing their game at $20, saying it's lowering the bar for everyone else. I mean, that's price fixing. These prices are artificial and come down to game companies being greedy fucks trying to milk everyone dry, but that isn't the point. Let's get back on topic. The point is, Dead Rising 3 was sorta gimped from the get-go. Not that the Xbox One is a bad console, but the circumstances around it definitely put it at a disadvantage. Being exclusive for a console not a lot of people are drifting towards. Granted, a new mainline Dead Rising game is a good way of building up that exact hype for the console, since they need new titles to sell people on the idea of dropping a good chunk of change on a whole new piece of technology to replace the thing they've been using for years. But then you have another set of problems. New console, new technical issues. The game was announced that it would be locked at 30 FPS. It also wouldn't receive a PC release until the following year, something that was kind of a dumb move as PC gaming is getting more popular at this point. Now, the frame rate lock isn't the worst sin in the world. A lot of people play games just fine with it. Hell, Bloodborne's locked at 30 FPS and still one of the most beloved Souls games out there. But the point remains, a lot of signs with DR3's development had this underbelly to it. Not full-blown Tortanic shit show, but some things that made you go, I don't know.
And here I have Jason and Mike, and they're going to talk me through the Kinect Smart Glass integration for Dead Rising 3. Jason, what is it all about?
Well, the whole concept behind Smart Glass is that you can take any tablet, any smartphone, install the Smart Glass app, and then connect directly to Dead Rising 3 to get exclusive content. These tie into actually a total side story with Smart Glass, which tie into the main story of the game.
So it's kind of like a little story within a story in itself, and it is completely optional to the main story as well?
Yes, totally optional, completely free. All you need to do is download the Smart Glass app and then connect to the game.
Strategies.
Incentives.
Synergy. Upsales.
Marketing.
Infrastructure.
Well, how'd the game turn out? It's complicated. I don't hate Dead Rising 3. In fact, I actually like this game quite a bit, and I think as time goes on, it's gotten a kind of resurgence. People going back and admitting it's actually pretty good. Not a hidden masterpiece, it absolutely has flaws that stick out, even for fans of a franchise that famously had clunky gameplay designs at times, but definitely not the worst thing to ever wear the Dead Rising name. Now, yes, this all comes off the heels of the worst thing ever to wear the Dead Rising name, but the point remains that Dead Rising 3 is genuinely good, but it's easily the most flawed of the games. It has elements that are really cool and reignites what you love about Dead Rising, stacked right up next to gameplay choices that make you scratch your head on why they decided to do that. So Dead Rising 3 came out in 2013, and at this point, the formula for what people consider Dead Rising was set in stone. You have an open labyrinth of a setting that gives you enough freedom to make you forget it's a prison. The zombies were mainly stopping blocks that were there to eat up time and increase tension, since the timer was the ultimate enemy of the game, trying to balance story missions, saving survivors, and fighting off psychopaths to get the perfect run. Now, if you're able to memorize all the tricks and hidden secrets, it's actually pretty easy to get a perfect run in Dead Rising. But the point is, it took the player learning the game and experimenting around. That's why it has that soft roguelike element of restarting the game with your current level, is to encourage people to look around and figure out what went wrong last time. The game is ball busting up until it's easy. First time through, you have no idea what you're doing, just scrambling around trying to balance all these plates. Then you learn the ins and outs and can save all 50 survivors before you even realize you did it. Even being able to enjoy the long breaks where you're free to explore around, collecting the secrets and finding more combo weapon combinations, things like that. The point of Dead Rising is to pretend to be unforgiving until you realize how hilariously forgiving the game actually is. Dead Rising 3 steps away from this in some major ways. You still have combo weapons, in fact it doubles down and drowns you in different combinations and systems regarding them, including adding combos on top of combos, allowing you to adjust combo weapons with different items to change their effects, even introducing combo vehicles, an idea that was teased in Dead Rising 2 with the motorcycle, where Chuck could add a few different weapons to the motorcycle to customize it. Dead Rising 3 adds way more to it, encouraging the player to throw together different combinations to turn a cheap little sedan into a fucking tank. And there's a lot of combinations to the vehicles. You can make steamroller motorcycles, turn a street cleaner into a zombie vacuum, all kinds of things. The combat itself has been fleshed out a bit more as well. Now in original Dead Rising games, the combat is really simple. You hit the attack button, Chuck or Frank swings the weapon or fires the gun. That's it. You can also hold the button for a heavy attack, but yeah, nothing else beyond that. The combat's simple because it's meant to be pretty arcadey. It's about running around and getting things done as fast as humanly possible. Dead Rising 3 adds more layers to it. Now you have a dedicated button for heavy and light attacks, and even some combos with them. It's not like a platinum game, but you can switch around between light and heavy to a degree where you can feel pretty satisfied. And if you get a high enough combo count, you can even perform executions on zombies, some even changing depending on the weapon you're holding. It's a fun addition that feels like a natural step forward. The problem is, there's other changes to the gameplay. You see, not only did combat and combo weapons get a rework, fucking everything did. From saving survivors, leveling up, everything got a new coat of paint. Some better, and some, Alright, let's get this shit out of the way. So leveling up in older Dead Rising games was automatic. You had a soft random element where you got different upgrades at different rates depending on the playthrough, but by level 50, you're gonna have all of them. Dead Rising 3 follows a similar idea. By level 50, you're gonna have all your upgrades, technically. So they changed the random pull from the original games to a point system. Each level gives you perk points you spend on the level up menu. When you fill out one criteria, you get the perks associated with it. Now I get why they wanted to let leveling up feel more complicated and active compared to older games. The problem is that it makes leveling up feel like it takes far longer than the other games. You can go entire levels without ever getting a new perk, because one criteria can cost 4 or 5 points, and you're only getting 1 or 2 with each level, meaning you dump a lot of time and energy into saving up, which makes it feel like more of a slog than it should. Magazines also got changed. In older games, you picked up magazines in the environment and held onto them in your inventory. The buffs could increase your damage, increase the rate you gain money, buff survivors, gave you XP. You get the idea. The balance around the magazines is that you needed to physically hold it, keeping a dedicated slot in your inventory, which can be pretty limited, especially in the early game, to have this buff in particular. Dead Rising 3 removes the need to carry it, instead going with the idea of giving you a menu where you can choose each magazine and swap in and out buffs, depending on the situation. The problem is, this also means magazines are very limited. Dead Rising 1 had 24, Dead Rising 2 had 28. Now yes, these could vary in usefulness, sure, but there were simply more of them, and they could have combinations you didn't expect depending on the ones you held together. Some could even stack. Dead Rising 3 only has 11 magazines, and normally you find them in safe zones, but a few are scattered around the open world. And the way these work are completely different from the older games. You permanently have the magazines, but you can only have one active at a time, unless you unlock a skill from the upgrade menu that allows all magazine buffs to be active at the same time, which That sounds really broken. Hell, you can unlock a skill that lets you use any weapon of a certain class to make any combo weapon. Even a portable weapon locker, so you can just spawn a combo weapon if you need it, since every weapon is saved to the locker when you pick it up. No need for scavenging anymore. Indestructible vehicles? Sure, why not? Hell, I didn't mention earlier, but scattered around the open world are collectibles and even challenges you can do that can boost up your XP. On top of unmarked challenges that basically rely on you killing zombies in certain ways or doing certain things. And these can jump you up in levels very fast. I mentioned earlier, it can take a while before you get enough perk points to unlock a new criteria. Well, in truth, you can actually jump up really fucking fast if you know what you're doing. If you're able to remember where everything is and get the right perks in the right order, you can easily make it up to level 25 within maybe 2 hours. It's really that forgiving. And I hope you're seeing the theme here. Dead Rising 3 is by far the easiest game in the franchise. The sheer amount of streamlining to systems basically makes this impossible to lose. The only real challenge is in the early game on a fresh save, before you start building up your arsenal and don't have that many weapons. And even then, all it takes is some poking around to start steamrolling, since the majority of weapon blueprints are in the open world, and there's enough collectibles to quickly jump up levels. Hell, I haven't even mentioned the way survivors have been tweaked. Originally, survivors served as your side quests. They were random people scattered around the map you had to go out of your way to save. Some even having a full quest line you could follow, and you need to escort them back to the safe room for a big XP boost. Dead Rising 3 changes things about this system. A lot of things. Now, survivors are split between 2 groups. Radiant quests where all you need to do is kill a mob of zombies around them and then they'll run away. Yeah, you don't lead them anywhere, they say they're fine and you just get a good chunk of XP doing it. And the second group are your more traditional side quests. Sometimes you have to get them a specific type of weapon or do a little side objective. The point is, it's more of the actual Dead Rising survivor quests. But once the quest is over, you can lead them to one of the safe rooms around the city, except you don't actually have to. You can keep them in your party to assist in fights. They even have varying stats so you know who's better at certain jobs. Hell, they won't even automatically leave your party when you reach a safe room. You have to specifically despawn them to make them go away. It's basically the exact opposite extreme of Dead Rising 1. The survivors there were brain dead, not fun to lead around, and Dead Rising 3 survivors aren't fun because they feel like a gimped co-op partner. It's like a half-baked party system that was meant to have more to it. But if you want to know the more egregious change, well, it's time to talk about the timer. You see, the older Dead Rising games have a pretty tight time limit. It wasn't really that unusual to lose a handful of survivors, either because you ran out of time or because you took too much in too short a period and someone got eaten. Well, Dead Rising 3 made some changes. Instead of just 3 days to get everything done, you have a full week. Yeah, you have leagues more time to get every objective done. Hell, there were multiple points where I forgot missions were even on a timer to begin with. Now I get it, the setting for 3 is easily the biggest one in the franchise, going from a singular shopping mall or casino resort to a massive city with multiple districts. Trying to balance gameplay and exploration out for the timer would have been hell on earth, so they simply said fuck it and gave you leagues more time. Still, it can be felt. It's to the point that I had to patch in a mode later that made the time tighter and actually give some tension back to the game. Because yeah, without the timer, you run into the big flaw with Dead Rising as a whole. You see, Dead Rising needs the timer. It's a crucial element to the game, and without it, you simply don't have a Dead Rising game anymore, because Dead Rising as a whole is built around the timer. Every aspect of gameplay focuses around it in some form or fashion. From finding enemies, scavenging weapons, leveling up, everything around it makes managing the in-game timer easier. Zombies aren't a threat because they can eat you, since they're pretty easy to kill entire swaths of, or slip past if you don't feel like doing that. They're a threat because they whittle away at your time. Every time you get grabbed, that's a few seconds taken away you can't get back. If survivors get grabbed or mobbed by a horde, that's all that time it takes to save them eaten away. Taking time to gather weapons, taking time to gather healing items, taking time to fight psychopaths, who are designed to waste as much time as humanly possible. The ultimate resource in Dead Rising is time. You never have enough of it. And the few golden moments where you squeak out a period where you can simply explore feel like godsends. Without the timer, you basically just have a generic zombie game. A fun one, a campy one that understands how to make killing zombies fun, but that identity that made the series what it is isn't there. Now, Dead Rising 3 isn't the ultimate sinner in this regard. The timer is there, it's just slower. You can still screw up missions and miss out on getting everything, but it takes effort to do. You basically have to intentionally screw up a playthrough to get one of the bad endings. It definitely feels like a game meant to introduce people who never played the series before into Dead Rising. That by itself is not the worst thing. Dead Rising 2 basically did the same thing, being a far bigger and bolder game that got a lot more eyes on the franchise, but 3 dips into full-blown streamlining streamlining, not ironing out rough edges, but instead watering down the grit for the sake of not scaring off a general audience. It's definitely something that rubs fans the wrong way, justifiably so, as this is taking a key component and sanding it down. So is Dead Rising 3 a bad Dead Rising game? Well, the answer is actually more complicated than you might think. For a while, this did have the reputation of being the worst Dead Rising game. People didn't vibe with the art style, seeing it as too muddied and not as stylish as 1 or 2. They weren't a fan of the story, thinking it was a pretty weak attempt at retreading ideas previous games did, along with some blatant flanderization towards one character in particular that felt downright cheap and a twist for a twist's sake. They also weren't a fan of the streamlined gameplay, taking a franchise known for being a ball-busting time management thing and turning it into a relatively safe and simple open world. It's not bad to sit down and play for a few hours just killing zombies, but actually binging the game can push you into being burned out faster than the others. I fully understand people say they downright don't like this game, but in recent years, there has been more love shown towards it. People willing to say it was actually pretty good. The combat is genuinely fun to play around with. The characters are genuinely charming, and not all of the story beats are seen as cynical as what could later come. Because yeah, a lot of this is because of the bad one. But the point remains that audiences have been willing to come back to Dead Rising 3 and see it as a misunderstood gem. A masterpiece? You're out of your fucking mind if you call it that. But a fun little cap off to the trilogy. It simply followed the same path as a lot of other trilogies, just not being as good as the other two. It's not irredeemable, but it's not something that changed the world or had the same impact. For the time, it was absolutely the worst Dead Rising game. It's just as time went on, people realized that the worst Dead Rising game, being 3, was still way better than what was on the horizon. And I think what makes Dead Rising 3 still charming to a lot of people is, funny enough, the story and the characters. Yeah, Dead Rising has never exactly had the best stories. They're campy and fully aware of their dumb fun zombie things, and 3 still follows that philosophy pretty well, able to balance out horror and goofy in a way that still feels like Dead Rising. Is it perfect? No, it still has stumbles. And not even typical Dead Rising stumbles where you expect to not think about it. No, there's full-blown plot holes and mistakes that can't really be ignored. Like I said, simply not as good as the other games. One big aspect is the Psychopaths. You see, the Psychopaths in older Dead Rising games were people who went insane as a result of the outbreak, becoming violent, ruthless killers you had to take down. Some were funny, others sad, and a few were downright creepy. Dead Rising Psychopaths were all these different situations and horror tropes that never really followed a consistent through line. It was just crazy people in a crazy situation. Well, Dead Rising 3 decided to give the Psychopaths a theme, the 7 deadly sins. All the Psychopaths were somehow related with the sins, and okay, not all of the Psychopaths. It was mostly side ones, except for a few story ones that also follow the sins. It was a confused idea, which was the main problem. You see, the 7 deadly sins means exactly that. 7. You'd only really have 7 bosses in the game. Now that's fine if they kept them with side bosses, but they also include some of the 7 into the main ones. Hell, technically you have 2 of the same sin pop up, more than once. It's one of those where the through line is decent enough, but it clearly hit a wall with the writing and concepts and shows they probably regretted sticking with this idea, especially since it means every psychopath is relegated to a singular gimmick. They're just the sin they're associated with. Pride, envy, lust, gluttony, wrath, greed, sloth. This is their defining character trait. And as stated, some of these repeat. Some psychopaths will try to kill you for the exact same sin as others. You have a guy who chops up survivors to supply an organ harvesting trade. He represents greed. And you later fight a psychopath who betrays you for money, referencing greed as well. So you have 2 examples of greed. You have a slutty enforcer to the main bad guys who constantly hits on you, and she's clearly very sexual. So is she lust? No, Lust is a completely different guy. This lady is just some random boss fight. Now, the obvious assumption is that all the sin bosses are just side content, but no, some of them you have to fight for the main story. They reference the 7 Deadly Sins theme in the end credits scene. They want to draw attention to it. So it's a weird ping pong between story and side content that really spells out that this is a gimmick more than anything else. Now, some of the versions of the Sin bosses are actually kind of cool. Wrathfight's genuinely fun and actually pretty funny, being this monk guy who monologues about inner peace while actually having massive anger issues. And he even has one of the funniest deaths of the franchise.
Why have you forsaken me? I get fired. My wife leaves for a guy who sells the refrigerators. My kids grow up to be disrespectful brats. Now this? A goddamn zombie outbreak? Seriously? Screw you, you piece of crap! God. Oh.
But they're right next to some of the worst boss battles in the series. The sloth fight is not even a fight. You shoot some helicopters, flip some switches, and then boom, the guy's dead. Greed had a fun concept, being this trippy drug hallucination where you had to find the actual boss hidden among a bunch of survivors, but it was more annoying than fun, since it just kind of became waiting for someone to scream than doing a QTE. Gluttony felt like a more straight-up Dead Rising boss, but not really anything that special. It's just a really fat lady that tries to run you over with her motor scooter.
Stop it, you kids! Stop!
Much like the game at large, the Psychopaths are mixed. Some are really cool, genuinely good fights, others just exist. It really makes you wonder if there were some development problems with this game, since this seems to be the common story among Dead Rising 3. Some areas are fully fleshed out and have a lot of focus on them, and others feel like they couldn't even give a damn if it was there or not. Dead Rising 3, to put it simply, is a good game that's frustratingly close to being great, but those cracks in the armor are more obvious because it's close to being up there with the other games. It sticks out, and you can't help but notice the negative more than the positive. And what are the positives? Well, the combo weapon system is genuinely fun to play with. All the different combinations and the sheer creativity of the weapons. The setting itself is really cool. This big city that has a pretty good flow to it. At first, it seems like there's constant roadblocks that dissuade you from using vehicles, and there is a district in particular that's just a pain in the ass to try to drive a vehicle through. But actually, there's a lot of side paths you can slip through once you figure out the map. And if you go on foot, exploration is genuinely tense. The streets are flooded with zombies, and you will die quick in the early game if you try to brute force your way through the hordes. So you use alleyways and rooftops to evade them. It actually feels pretty close to Dying Light at times, where you have to maneuver around and stay away from hordes before you get the tools and skills that let you decimate them. And when you get enough upgrades, you genuinely feel powerful, shredding through zombies to the point that you can clear out enough breathing room to walk around freely. There's even a little bit of Left 4 Dead 2 in the DNA where you get special types of zombies based on different jobs people had when they were alive, such as football zombies that go for tackles, fireman zombies that are immune to elemental damage, police or military ones that actually hold and fire guns at you. It's not massive differences, but they add a bit of spice to the formula that's genuinely cool. Of course, the football and fireman zombies end up kind of just being massive damage sponges, but the attempt was there. Another highlight of the game, funny enough, is the protagonist himself. Now, to go any further involves spoilers, so I'll put up a warning here. Sit down and play through Dead Rising 3 before going any further. The game is flawed, yes, but it's genuinely good, at least in my mind. A solid 7 out of 10. It just has some issues that keep it from being as iconic as 1 or 2. At the very least, check it out so you can say you've played it. I mean, come on, don't be a dick. So Dead Rising 3's story is interesting. It's still got the camp of what makes the older games fun, and it has some elements that are genuinely cool. It just also has some elements that feel a tad thrown in or not really thought out. Already mentioned the 7 Deadly Sins thing, you know? But it is pretty much how the older games did things as well. But the older games always got the big picture down. You can get what it's doing from beginning to end without any problems. They had pretty consistent themes. Frank West is a sleazy journalist. He enters Willamette for the sake of breaking a big story, then ends up trapped with everyone else in the mall. He fights for the truth and discovers America unintentionally created zombies. And Carlito wants revenge for the destruction of his hometown. Chuck Green is a motocross champion framed for the Fortune City outbreak. He fights to clear his name and discovers that Phenotrans intentionally caused it to boost up their stock price and secure a supply of Zombrex, since you need to harvest queens in order to create the drugs, stopping the conspiracy and coming out as a hero instead of a villain. Dead Rising 3's setup is much more down to earth than the other two. You're not playing as Chuck or Frank this go around, instead you're playing as Nick Ramos, an average guy stuck in Los Perdidos when the shit hits the fan. Los Perdidos basically just being LA. The entire city is quarantined, so Nick and a small group of friends have to find a way to escape before it's firebombed. The beginning of the story is pretty simple. Run from place to place trying to find a weak point in the quarantine. It's more so about setting up Nick as a protagonist than any real plot points. Cause yeah, a lot of the leads end up as dead ends. The vibe definitely leans harder on traditional horror and grindhouse this go around. The soundtrack in particular sounds a lot more like 80s synth, kinda like what you'd hear in Day of the Dead, than the other games, which had a much more varied soundtrack. The opening deaths are also far more gruesome, with a guy and his elderly mother torn to pieces by the zombies following an obligatory Shaun of the Dead reference.
Will you bitches shut up? They're gonna hear us!
You know, why don't you calm the hell down, asshole? As long as they're outside, we got nothing to worry about.
Turn it off! Turn it off!
No, Mother, it'll be all right, okay? Okay, I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
Peter, I'm so scared.
Oh my God. Look at that one. It's like it knows something about when it was alive.
We are all going to die.
No, Mother, no, don't go out there.
God!
No, help me.
Jesus!
But let's take a step back and explain a bit more about the opening. So the game begins with Nick checking out one of the highways out of the city, used as a refugee zone for survivors. Right from the get-go, you can see how Nick stands out from Chuck or Frank. While they had moments of being afraid, they were still able to bury that and focus on the job. Frank, in fact, being more of a shit talker, and Chuck kind of just being a stoic badass. Nick is definitely more vocal with his fears, starting the game off as meek and almost cowardly at times. He's a good guy, but he's also just a normal person stuck in this crazy situation, so he'll be far more terrified than the experienced war journalist or the motocross champion whose entire job was killing zombies. Nick is a good character in spite of his fears, specifically because he's doing everything while being afraid. He's taking on these risks because he knows it needs to be done, but is absolutely pissing himself while doing it. It's commendable, and you really feel sorry for the guy. Of course, the quarantine zone route is a bad call. It is flooded with zombies, and the highway itself is sealed off, so no way out from there. He returns to a diner where his group is hiding out, his group consisting of Rhonda, a fellow mechanic that owns the garage Nick worked at before the outbreak, Annie, a local punk girl that's sticking around mainly for her own ends, these two people who are gonna die, and Terry Bogard. Okay, his actual name is Dick Baker. He's actually the character you play as if you're doing co-op with somebody, which is why he doesn't really show up that often in cutscenes. He still has dialogue and it's cool he's involved in the story, but he's the co-op character, so don't expect him to be referenced that often. Still, the diner is overrun. Annie runs off on her own, and the surviving three have to make it to Rhonda's garage for shelter. This is her introduction to combo weapons and vehicles. Remember, Nick is a mechanic, so he's far more technically savvy than Chuck or Frank, who mainly slap things together and smack zombies with it. Nick is able to make far more intricate weapons and vehicles, which gives him an edge over the gluttonous hordes. After fighting their way back to Rhonda's garage, we get some answers to what's going on. You see, during the diner scene, you get reference to illegals, infected people who refuse to accept a chip from the government that would track their location and supposedly give them their daily dose of Zombrex automatically. Annie is an illegal, which is a source of tension in the group.
Hi, Annie.
Thought you guys were goners. You find anything? Maybe some food or a gun?
Found this out there. It might be useful.
I gotta get out of here, man.
You got a family to get back to? Parents?
Don't have any.
Me neither.
Yeah, sometimes you're better off that way.
Is that your last dose? We're almost out of everything.
You know, if you're kind and just got Zombrex chipped like responsible citizens, we might not be in this mess.
Those people are tracked by GPS. They're prisoners.
They're following the law. Those GPS chips have Zombrex in them. They keep infected people from turning zombie.
Oh, really? Must not have worked too well. Look outside.
Ugh, you illegals are nothing but trouble.
Will you bitches shut up? They're gonna hear us.
You know, why don't you calm the hell down, asshole?
Since they're not looked upon fondly, seen as irresponsible idiots who are putting themselves above everyone else. All it takes is a single person miss their daily dose, and you potentially have a new outbreak. Now this plays into the social commentary that 3 talks about, since all 3 games have a central theme it discusses. Dead Rising 1 is about the meat industry and America's obsession with food. As Carlito's village was destroyed, also America could make fatter cattle. Dead Rising 2 discussed big pharma, medical companies doing shady and illegal things to keep permanent customers and bleeding their patients dry of every cent. 3 referencing illegals might make you think it's an allegory for illegal immigration, since that term is pretty loaded, but it's actually not. It's more about privacy and government control, allowing your rights to be taken away for a false sense of security, as it's discovered that some of the zombies roaming around have been chipped. The exact thing that was supposed to keep people from turning has now been basically turned off.
Oh, I didn't think we were gonna make it. That whole city is screwed.
Well, we know it's the whole damn country.
Where are the police? Where's the army?
Should be safe in here for a while.
You better look around, make sure none of them are in here, okay? No more.
Hey, wait a minute. This guy, he's got one of those GPS Zombrex chips right there.
Hey! Those are supposed to dose infected people with Zombrex, keep them from turning. And if they do turn, it's supposed to track them. I mean, isn't that the whole point?
All clear.
God
This wasn't supposed to happen.
And none of this was supposed to happen.
So what the hell is going on here? Well, no time to think about that since you need your tutorial to how side missions work in safe houses. Nick finds a radio which connected to the city's CCTV system, where he comes in contact with Jamie Flint, a janitor that locked himself inside the security room and is overseeing the camera system.
You can see me, right? Can you help? Are you a cop?
Am I a cop? Oh, that is a good one, man. I am a professional office sanitation management technician. Yeah, no, I just ran when that shit hit the fan, man. I holed up in some surveillance room. That zombie civil defense shit, the ZDC. Yeah, found a body prop and the door open, so locked my ass in here straight up. The name's Jamie Flint. Nick. Yeah, I see your shirt there, cowboy. So here's the deal. I can't call no one but you.
Oh, man.
But, you know, it ain't all bad. I got a bag of chips and a bank of monitors. I'm getting the hang of this civil defense system shit. Looks pretty sick. No, just hang on to this thing, man. I will call you back if I see anyone alive who needs help.
You never meet Jamie physically, he's just there to give you side missions, so they make it a point that Nick can't even contact him. The radio isn't working right, so you can only hear the guy. It's sad, because the other radio characters in the older games had an impact on the story. Otis in Dead Rising 1 saves everyone at the end by stealing a helicopter. Stacy in Dead Rising 2 is Chuck's main love interest and ends up needing to be rescued from TK in the overtime ending. They were involved in the plot, and were physical characters you could talk to. Jamie's just kind of there, which is sad, because it would have been cool to have the final survivor mission be saving him from the security office. But it is what it is. Regardless, you get a rundown on how safe houses work. There are areas that illegals have marked as safe zones to run from the government, but they're flooded with zombies and you need to kill them all to make it safe again. Huh, wonder why that is. Anyway, the group are able to watch the news. Since the city still has power and there hasn't been a media blackout, mainly because who the hell is going to be trying to broadcast here? Anyway, you get the news that the city is going to be firebombed in a week, giving you the larger threat that you need to resolve before time runs out. But this, the group decide to make a break for one of the military checkpoints in the hope they can be evacuated. So Nick customizes a vehicle that lets them punch through the hordes. But once they reach the checkpoint, yeah, no one's left. It's all overrun. But not by zombies. Instead, a violent biker gang has taken over, and they have no intentions on letting the group pass. These guys love the chaos and decide that Nick and his friends are the perfect prey, and they're forced to fight them off. Nick attracts the attention of the leader, a guy by the name of Hunter, and he's your first official psychopath. You can fight the monk before him, but they make it a point the bikers are the first one Nick actually fully kills. And they actually stay around as recurring enemies, they're basically the looters. With the checkpoint plan in ruins and Nick shaken up by the fact he just killed a human being, the group tries to go back to the garage, running into Nick's childhood friend, Diego. He's the soldier that went AWOL after doing security duty for the president. The ceremony for her speech was attacked by zombies, and she's now missing. And Diego is fully on board with just ditching and leaving, even revealing that there's a plane in an old museum they can steal and fix up to fly out of there.
Nick! Amigo! Jesus, man, I'm so sorry. Thank God I finally found you. I heard some shouting, so I came this way. I've been looking for the lady's chop shop you told me about. Nick, man, things are really bad, man. We are so screwed.
Where's the rest of your unit?
My unit got owned by the zombies. We were over at that new museum, big deal exhibit. Freaking president was there. We let her down. All of a sudden, there were zombies everywhere. It's freaking ran, man. Now I'm like AWOL or some shit. They won't let anybody out. We're quarantined. That's why I wanted to find you, man. You can fix things, right? You can fix the plane, right?
What is this about a plane?
This collector guy donated an old military plane to the museum. My unit was supposed to get it ready. Think it can fly. It just needs some repairs and some gas or something. I got the key. Right here.
Sounds great. Let's do that. Then Nick gets bit. Yep, he's fucked. Thankfully, he still has time to find Zombrex before he turns, and the first place to look is the local mortuary, since they're legally required to have a stock of Zombrex. This is actually kind of a clever plan. Survivors will raid pharmacies and hospitals first, since you can get Zombrex and medicine at the same time, but no one would remember that a mortuary would have some too, especially since running straight to a place full of dead people during a plague where the dead come back to life and eat would definitely scare off non-main characters. So you have the setup to the story. Get Nick his Zombrex and fix the plane. Pretty simple escape plan. Now, you're not waiting for the rescue vehicle, but instead finding the parts to get out. And Zombrex management isn't a new idea. Dead Rising 2 did it, Off the Record did it. Sure, it's kind of annoying to have to track down the box at first, but once you find the hiding spots, you can build up a pretty easy surplus. But the Zombrex stashes are really well hidden in Dead Rising 3, like I couldn't find any in the open world. It's really tense, because you don't have a timer telling you when Nick will turn. In fact, it's pretty weird that Nick isn't showing any symptoms. Oh well, it's probably just a ludonarrative issue. Dying Light did the same thing, where he only showed symptoms during specific story moments, so whatever. Still, now you see what I mean by the commentary fits more with government control over any other issue. The illegals are American citizens, people infected with this contagion that we know is being exploited by an evil medical company. Of course, they wouldn't trust a chip that constantly broadcasts their location, and they just hope gives them their Zombrex dose every day. Now, one of the collectibles you can find in the open world are loudspeakers broadcasting government propaganda about the importance of getting your chip. It's pretty clear it's not a fan of the government. And yeah, considering what was revealed in the previous games, that's definitely understandable. And this game absolutely doubles down on that idea, but we'll talk about that later. For now, let's talk about Nick. You see what I mean by he's a pretty average guy. He's just someone trying not to die, forced into becoming a hero due to circumstances. It's one of the reasons I actually really like Nick. He has a pretty solid character arc, going from a scared survivor to a legitimate badass willing to jump into danger to help others. He has moments where he's scared shitless, a tad arrogant, even being legitimately funny. He's a good protagonist, someone I'd be willing to say is able to stand shoulder to shoulder with a great 2 of the franchise. He feels like a genuine successor, and it's actually crazy to think about how each mainline game introduces a new protagonist and they all end up extremely likable in their own way. Back to the story, Nick has to make it to the mortuary. Where he finally reaches the building, he discovers a man by the name of Gary also trying to get inside. He's a gangster working for a crime boss in the area, and he's looking for someone he learned might be in the mortuary. As part of a deal, the two decide to team up, Gary teaching Nick how to exploit the queens that emerge from the zombies, and Nick finding a way inside the morgue.
He helps people who are, desperate.
So he's a crook.
Hey, don't be rude. I like to say kingpin. I think it sounds a little classier. Anyways, I gotta get in there and I gotta get a body from my boss. Tell you what, why don't you climb up there? Let yourself into the roof, then let me in. I know where the Zombrex is in there. You help me, I help you.
I want you climb up there?
All right. You don't want the Zombrex. That's not my problem. I'll catch you later, kid, maybe.
No, wait. You got a deal.
All right. Here, let me do you a favor, Nick. Let me show you a little trick that'll come in handy sometime. Show you a little goodwill. All right, keep an eye on those zombies there. All right? Watch this. Now, this is the best part. Now, get your ass up there and let me in.
They fight through the zombies inside, the ones who ruined Otis's funeral. All of them. Every goddamn one. Anyway, the two make it down to the storage room. The girl Gary is looking for isn't there, and they decide to go down to the incinerator. They find a woman that Nick confuses for Annie at first, but it's not her. The name piques Gary's interest, but the important part of the conversation is that there's no Zombrex. Nick is screwed. So Gary offers to put him down. Nick accepts, realizing he doesn't really have many other options, and...
All right, okay, I'm hurrying. Coming right up.
Oh my God.
I think the safety's on.
Can I see the gun? Let me see the gun.
By the way, you're welcome.
You just do it?
Okay, I'll do it. I'm not the best shot. Give me a moment. Oh.
Gary misses the shot. He tripped over the body. Great job, Gary. Very cool. But this actually reveals something interesting. Nick's bite is healed. It closed up on his hand like it never even happened, and he still hasn't shown any symptoms. So that's interesting. The two get the body back to Gary's boss, driving through the zombies with the promise that they'll be paid in fuel for the plane. After delivering the body, Gary realizes the body isn't the girl he's supposed to find. And with this news, Gary decides to amend the deal a bit. Bring Annie to the club, and his boss will personally help build the plane with them.
Listen. You said you knew a girl who looked like that girl. Annie, you said her name was Annie. Now maybe that's the girl he's looking for, so why don't you go bring her back here, and we'll give you anything you want. We'll give you fuel for your plane, your friends, whatever.
I don't know if I could do that to her. It's nothing personal, but...
All right. Well, don't let the big bomb hit you in the ass on your way out.
So give Annie to this group of violent gangsters to save her own ass. Worth it. Yeah, you kind of explicitly fuck Annie over. Even Nick comments that it's pretty messed up to do this, especially since it's pretty clear that he likes her. For some reason, I get angry whenever Nick shows he has feelings for Annie, like some subconscious desire to feed him to zombies. Whatever. Nick makes it back to the garage where his group is fixing up the plane to discuss the plan. He decides to let them think he found Zombrex instead of the fact that he might be immune. At the same time, Diego is freaking the fuck out. He clearly is not handling the situation well and is getting more unstable. Terry Bogard points out that the two have the same tattoo, numbers on the side of their necks, and Nick reveals that they grew up as orphans together. They've just kind of always had them. They don't know where they came from. They then discuss the plan to trade Annie for the fuel. Rhonda's up for the idea, seeing her as just a troublemaker to get rid of, an urge to kill us back for some reason. Anyway, she points out that there are hideouts for illegals all over the city. No doubt she's at one of those. He managed to track down their main hideout, but they'll only let Nick speak to Annie if he does some busy work. Yep, and now we can talk about this. The mission structure in Dead Rising 3 is not exactly the best. It's usually padded with fetch quests, go here, collect this item, kill this group, then come back. And these can end up with you going entire districts away from the main objective. It can feel padded, especially towards the middle. The actual story is interesting, Nick doing this shady deal to fuck over this girl he clearly likes, and finding out the secret to his own immunity. It has cool threads, but you can tell they maybe had 5 hours worth of story they stretched out for like 12 hours, because the illegal hideout is probably the most dull missions until you get past the wall. It's the most egregious of checking off checkboxes. Still, you make contact with the leader of the illegals, a guy by the name of Red. You find Annie too, confirming she shacked up with these guys after the events at the diner, even revealing that her and Red might have been an item at some point in the past. I might kill him. I might kill him horribly. Anyway, he recruits Nick to help the illegals in their fight with the government, freeing prisoners, burning supplies, typical freedom fighter stuff. Nick plays along, hoping to buy their trust, and learns more about how the government was involved with the outbreak. You also fight the greed psychopath here, like I said earlier, but he's more of a side quest that ties into the main objective than anything else. A side story to a larger point. They later discover that one of their members discovered information pointing to the military capturing and executing survivors at the police station. Nick volunteers to go investigate and discovers an entire special forces team is there, led by this lady named Hilda Schmittendorf, who actually works for a general known as Hemlock, who's overseeing the Los Perdidos quarantine. And yeah, they're just fully executing people. Something is happening they don't want anyone stumbling into. Nick fights his way to the police station and manages to kill Hilda.
Size doesn't matter! Big boy! That's not fair. I finished first.
You might think I'll make the usual joke, but no, I actually don't think Hilda deserves it. I have refined taste. An old lady that looks like a busted porn star is not enough to sway me. She may rot, untouched and cold. I spit on you, Hilda, you she-wolf of the SS knockoff. Anyway, Nick retrieves the information from her body, going to the rendezvous where Red and Annie are meant to meet their source. She's dead, shot in the head by the military before they get there. Fully convinced the military is doing something shady, Nick begins to empathize with the illegals' argument, even earning the respect of Red, who promises to get fuel for the group instead of Gary, so we don't have to screw over Annie. Hell yeah, it's all working out. Well, you get back to the illegal hideout, and it gets raided. By Gary at first, who's been following Nick since he kinda guessed he'd screw him over, then by the military.
Hey, don't scare me like that. Red's not back yet.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Bingo! Hands up, everybody, hands up!
Gary?
I told him where I was. I trusted you, asshole.
Oh, calm down, lady. It's not his fault. I figured you didn't have the balls to follow through, so I followed you. Now, you're the broad my boss is looking for. You're coming with me. Keep moving! Keep moving! Huh?
It's Riff!
Hey! Keep moving! Leave the rest!
Of course it wasn't going to be easy. And to just point something out, we're already halfway through the game. Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is chapter 4. I told you the story's pretty short. If you rush the main story and ignore everything else, you could probably beat this game in one sitting, minus a few moments where you have to wait a few minutes to get to a new mission. The game fully expects you to get lost doing side quests, fetching collectibles, and building up your blueprints than really rushing through the main story. Because yeah, if you do everything, you do get substantially more upgrades and more power and more options. So it's kind of a trade-off. Still, the point is, the main story is very damn short. Nick learns that Annie and the others are being held at a makeshift prison camp the Special Forces guys set up. Now, this mission sets up the idea Nick could sneak in if he has one of the uniforms of the soldiers, or just not being seen. Where's the fun in that? We have guns. Yeah, we barge straight in and raise hell, because that's a cool way. Brad runs off to find an escape vehicle, leaving Nick to handle the base himself, and this is actually where a big reveal begins. You see the obvious one first. Yeah, the military colluded with Phenotrans to start the outbreak, shutting off the chips to the infected in Los Perdidos, so they turn and go on a rampage. You also find out Phenotrans is still being led by Marion, who is the bad guy in Case West. If you didn't play that, don't worry, it's easy enough to understand she's the bad guy in this. But she reveals that she's looking for someone in the city, arguing with Hemlock, who just wants to firebomb everything immediately and call it a day. Something about this is crucial to Marion, but Hemlock shows he does not care, he's got his own agenda. They even captured the President of the United States, force-feeding her a mature parasite to turn her into a zombie. So Hemlock just murdered the commander-in-chief, even planning on having her eat someone and sending the footage to the media. They want the situation to seem hopeless so they can just wipe the city off the face of the earth. The entire plan hinges on exploiting this exact situation as much as possible, since Marion doesn't want to repeat this. The radiation they use to shut off the chips is affecting the zombies, meaning they could accidentally create a new mutated form they can't control. But Hemlock sees it as a chance at a new weapon, because of fucking course he does. You also see that Marion was completely bullshitting about having a cure. She popped Zombrex at the end of the cutscene. This is actually kind of a clever reveal, showing that she was trying to manipulate Chuck and Frank to just leave her alone. It's not amazing, since it makes the tension at the end of Case West kind of pointless, but it kind of fits the context of what you find out in 3. Plus, maybe you can headcanon it that single dose of the cure they saw in Case West was just that, a single dose, and it couldn't just be repeated twice. Because Marion seems really interested in Diego, outright demanding the Special Forces send a team to go find him. Obviously, they don't really care that he abandoned the president to die. That seems like something that would actually earn some points with these dudes, but something about him makes them hungry to find him, more than the zombies. Regardless, Nick saves the day, freeing Annie and her friends and getting them to safety. Even Gary, you dickhead. I can't really blame him, Nick was trying to screw him over. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, he's just in a bad situation. We also see Red kept his word, covering the group as they make it to the escape vehicle. You know, I'd say Red doesn't seem like a bad guy, but I still hate him. I don't even know why I hate him, it's just something about him, I reject his existence. He shows Nick a wanted poster, showing them that the military is out to find people with a number tattooed on their neck. The claim is that they're marked with a tattoo to show they're part of a terrorist group, but obviously that's not true. Sensing the danger, the two agree to gather the fuel and organize the escape plan. Red once again keeps his promise and tells Nick where to find fuel for the plane. Awesome. Now we just need to drive a car full of highly volatile fuel back to the garage, in a city full of zombies and roads full of broken down and burning cars. And there's a mutated type of zombie that explodes when damaged. Huh. Oh yeah, these are the Kings, a special form of infected that have had wasps inside of them begin building a hive out of their flesh. I love the concept, that's metal as fuck. But in practice, they're kinda just there. I mean, the intro cutscene kinda lies to you about their abilities. The idea that they could puke out wasps and enrage nearby zombies is awesome, but I've never actually seen that in gameplay. Maybe one puked on me once, but they kinda just acted like normal zombies. Way more fragile too, because the minute they take any damage, they just pop like a balloon. I don't know. Still, the fuel is back at the garage. It seems like everything's ready to get the hell out of Dodge. Except Diego is missing. He ran off after going completely cuckoo, and nobody knows where he went. Now, obviously, we could just leave him to the rotting corpses that are hungry for Mexican food, or the Special Forces guys that are gonna do something to him, but the asshole has the key, so we gotta find him. Rhonda also has a passing comment about an ex-husband. Makes sense. She's a blue-collar kind of gal. Would be shocked if she had less than 2 and she didn't shoot one of them. Still, the plane also needs more parts. Not many, but enough to be a pain in the ass. So we gotta find Diego, and the last few pieces of the plane. Easy enough, I guess. The easy thing to assume is that he went to the museum where a big event was happening, which is why the president was in Los Perdidos in the first place. Nick gets to the museum and...
Listen, man, I'm begging you, we gotta get out of here. We do not have time for this.
Unknown life forms approaching. Analysis reveals no signs of carnage.
Gotta get out of here. The bomb's gonna go off.
Copy that. Life forms shall be neutralized and any organic remnants brought back to the ship for further analysis.
Yeah, Diego ain't doing too good. He's muttering to himself and dressed up in a spaceman uniform. The guy's in the middle of a pretty bad episode right now. Shocker, watching people around you be torn apart and eaten is not great for your state of mind. Well, Nick is able to calm Diego down with a solid brotherly ass beating, because that Neil Armstrong cosplay is gay as fuck, and he's talking like a retard. After Diego is defeated, he says something interesting.
Diego!
Pachamama. Something his mother told him as a kid. Nick remembers the phrase too, but he doesn't remember from where. That's interesting. And this is doubled up with the reveal of what the big event for the museum was. A commemoration for the history of the outbreaks across America. A memorial for Chuck, Frank, and references to Isabella Keys and Carlito. One detail that especially freaks out Diego is the exhibit explaining the Smithville outbreak in 2007, believed to be caused by a zombie with a number on its neck. That's freaky.
This zombie is reported to have begun the Smithville outbreak in 2007, the first outbreak to occur after Willamette.
Now look at his neck.
No, holy crap, man! No, what does that mean, man?
I don't know, right? What the hell?
Nick tries to focus their attention on the plane, but Diego explains that he was attacked by the bikers who stole the key. He also has something crawling under his skin, which... yeah, you might want to get that checked out, man. Still, you have another padding quest where it basically amounts to killing 3 groups of bikers to get the key back. You get the key, travel with Diego back to the garage, all is well that ends well. Who cares about the conspiracy? Let's get the fuck out of here. Well, first we have another do side content and wait for the next mission segment, so do the busy work, get the message check back in. Yeah, you understand how this is starting to kind of turn into spinning its wheels a little bit here. Rhonda reveals that a plane enthusiast might have the parts they need, so Nick needs to go to his mansion and raid the place. Unfortunately, the house is filled with zombies, and the security system is still active. Fantastic. Regardless, Nick kicks ass, and the plane parts are up for the taking. Unfortunately, the last part never made it to the house. It was supposed to be delivered by a courier for the outbreak started, so you gotta track down where they might be and recover the final part. Okay, all the parts are gathered. We can finally fix up the plane and get the hell out of here. We might actually be able to finally leave this hellscape behind us. I mean, the zombies aren't so bad, but you're out of your fucking mind if you think I'm stomaching LA for one more second. Rhonda decides to stay behind, saying she wants to find her ex-husband and make sure he's okay. Going back to her garage and telling Nick to leave without her. Fine. Yeah, whatever. Let's just get on the goddamn plane already. The group then decides to meet up with Annie's group so everyone can escape. Solid plan. Yes, we're finally getting shit done. I mean, I feel bad for Rhonda, but that chick's tough as hell. She can take care of herself. Then Nick gets captured by the special forces. Great. Fantastic. I'm not mad. I'm crashing the fuck out. Yeah, Nick and Diego were the ones Marion wanted. If you haven't figured it out yet, don't worry. We're seconds away from the full explanation. But basically, Marion wants Nick, even if she doesn't realize he's the one she's looking for. Nick's immune to the parasite, meaning he's the potential cure for the plague. A cure Marion really wants, since it means she herself would be free of Zombrex and she can control who lives and who dies. Her entire philosophy from the beginning. And Diego? Yeah, he's not immune.
Activate the pathetic one first. We'll see if he's the right one or not.
Activate! Activate what?
Begin the tests immediately.
Hey! Get away from him! No! No! Diego! What's it doing?
What's happening?
In fact, he had parasites inside of him, exploding out once exposed to a focused stream of radiation that floods the room, giving Nick the chance to escape. And I will say, goddamn, Diego's death is pretty fucking gnarly. I mean, yeah, he was kind of annoying in the sense that you have to go and basically get his ass out from the museum after he goes nuts, but still, Jesus. Once free, Nick runs into Isabella Keys, the forced lackey of Marion who finally explains everything. The people with number tattoos on their necks are the orphans Carlito infected and sent out across the country, using them as living time bombs that would start outbreaks in every major city. That's... okay, not gonna lie, that's actually a pretty cool twist. Nick being one of the orphans that Carlito intended to weaponize, that's a fucking awesome reveal for a main character. Now, there is a small hiccup in that, Nick is designated as number 12 and Diego is 44, and when you check the list in Dead Rising 1, yeah, that's not them. Of course, they didn't think that far ahead while making Dead Rising 1, so it's just a small inconsistency that's kind of funny. Regardless, twist itself, actually kind of awesome, tying the third game back to the original and showing Carlito's influence is still being felt a full decade after the original outbreak. Props to you, Dead Rising 3. Very cool. You also find out Nick was specifically made immune by Carlito, a last-ditch effort at control in case the zombies become too overwhelming and he had to cure himself or anyone else. Also a clever detail. Carlito had plans on top of plans. He absolutely would do something like that in case he got infected or Isabella did. I like this twist, and it makes sense why the government would cause an outbreak to get their hands on the orphans, since it's both their chance at a cure, and they can lock the government down and become more authoritarian under the guise of security. Now, the obvious question is still important to address. If you cause an outbreak, the only shot they have at a cure could be, eaten, or shot, or stabbed, or run over. Zombie outbreaks are a chaotic situation, anyone could die for any reason. This is kind of an unreliable plan when you could just track down anyone with a number tattoo and kidnap them. We already know Fiona Trance was kidnapping shitloads of people for experiments in Case West. Anyway, we're just gonna hand-wave that away for right now. It doesn't really matter. They do establish Hemlock and Marion don't agree on whether or not the cure even exists in the first place. Marion latches onto it for hope, and Hemlock just sees it as a dumbass delusion. It doesn't matter. The zombies were the point. Anyway, Isabella's really hyped to see us, and I'm hyped to see her. Even that scar on her face, she doesn't look bad. Latina jeans, man. Dangerous thing. I'd totally do the body temp check for you.
Don't ever say this to a woman.
Nick, pissed off at the death of his friend, fights his way out of the facility. This is actually the point where Nick's character arc has a pretty drastic shift. No longer is he the scared kid he was in the beginning. Now he's a fighter, shit-talking enemies and even zombies, acting far more aggressive in cutscenes.
Oh, Nick! Oh my god, you saved us! Hey, what's wrong, sugar?
He's never killed anyone before. I've killed zombies, but they're already dead, right? I never killed a human being. Maybe there was something else I could have done.
12! Number 12!
No,
I know who you are.
Who the hell are you?
I'm Isabella Keys.
You.
I've waited for you for so long.
You started the outbreak of Willamette! You killed my friend Diego!
I am no terrorist. The world has been lied to about me for so long. I will change that with you.
What are you talking about?
There's no time to explain, but you must know you will not meet the same fate as your friend. They will not leave inside of you. The worms, they cannot.
What else do you know? You need to tell me now.
This is great stuff. It really feels like he's changed from the beginning of the game. He's getting sick of this and is more pissed off than scared. He's already killed a shitload of zombies and people by this point, no reason he would still be meek and frightened after everything he's been through. Still, he escapes from Marion's clutches, fleeing through the subway back to freedom. He makes it back to the karaoke bar, which is actually being guarded by Gary. Huh. Weird that you're here. Anyway, he's still pissed about, us trying to screw him over. So pissed that he admits that he kind of feels all this is pointless now. His whole life has been ruined before the outbreak even started. He had a great career as a wrestler, a big house, a hot wife that's a mechanic who's named Rhonda.
I'm all screwed up. What do I got? This crappy job? You hear me? It's a crappy job! Screw it. Screw it! Screw it! You hear me? I've been thinking about everything. Ever since this outbreak, I've been thinking about everything. I used to have it good. You know how good I had it? I was a wrestler. I made myself some big change. I had a beautiful wife, a big house. My wife, she was a great mechanic, too. I screwed it all up. Oh, God, I miss my Rhonda so much.
Now, we don't know who he's talking about, but the only way past the door is to track down his reason to live. For some reason, the map marker says we need to go back to the garage in Ingleton. We head there and find Rhonda, who's been tortured by Special Forces soldiers looking for Nick. We fight them off and help Rhonda heal her wounds, and as it turns out, they cut her fucking arm off as part of the torture. Ow. You get her some tools and she's able to build a mechanical arm with a flamethrower. Badass. Along the way, she talks about her ex-husband, who used to be a professional wrestler. Now, that's actually pretty convenient. They both just so happen to have spouses that fit each other's archetypes. Rhonda was married to a wrestler, Gary was married to a mechanic. Huh. That's kind of neat. So they both lost their loved ones and treat each other as a replacement. They even shared the same name. Gary's wife was named Rhonda, and Rhonda's husband was named Gary. That's actually really cool. I am a complete dumbass. Yeah, in all seriousness, Gary and Rhonda were married. It's a decently sweet detail, except this literally never comes up for this exact stretch of missions. It would have been clever if there were a few more references to each other, but at the same time, it's really blatant the first time you hear it. Hell, Gary literally screaming that his wife was named Rhonda and a mechanic is so obvious even Nick in the game chuckles at it.
Oh God, I miss my Rhonda so much!
Still, the two reunite and they go off on their own. Gary fully swearing off his boss and saying they have their own escape plan. Cool, so they don't die. These two are actually pretty likable, and that's nice. Also, he put a bunch of zombies around Annie to make sure she didn't try to escape.
I put her up high, I put a bunch of zombies around her. Just be careful in there.
Gary, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Still, Nick easily dispatches the zombies and saves the girl. Badass. And it seems like Annie likes Nick as well. Hell yeah, we're in, boys. Even if for some reason saying that makes me want to commit seppuku. Also, Red never showed up to the meeting spot, meaning we are the guy who keeps his word to Annie now. Great, we saved our friends, fixed the plane, and got the girl. Now we just need to fly the hell out of here, and we got a perfectly happy ending. You hear that, Diego? It all worked out. Oh. Right. So we take Annie back to the plane, and we finally reach the end of the game. We are getting the hell out of LA. Couldn't convince me anymore. Isabella also wants to tag along, which I'm okay with. Frank might have fumbled that in Dead Rising 1, but Nick can totally hag max. She also gives the rundown to the plot of Dead Rising 1, explaining that the orphans Carlito infected actually came from soldiers who slept with the women in Santa Cabeza, all part of Carlito's dark joke on America. Which, yeah, I can see him doing that. He would see the kids as dark reminders to what happened, and he definitely would go full sins of the father on these poor kids. Carlito was a douchebag, this adds up. Reg calls the group outside saying he needs help with something, which is weird, cause like, we're about to leave, man, it can wait. But they go outside to check, and...
Red? Come on, guys, hurry up! I need your help!
Nick, wait! There's no time, Annie!
Annie, this is a trap! Hey! Mother!
Nick! That is a nice tattoo, number 12.
What are you doing?
Woo, do you know what it means? $5 million for Red.
You sure gave up on your family fast!
Come on, Nick. I told you, I'm a realist. I'm tired of living like a pariah. And when I saw that flyer, I realized that was the closest to $5 million that I ever was gonna get. So guess what? I got your friends. You are my $5 million. So let's make an exchange.
I'm gonna kill you with my bare fucking hands, you son of a bitch!
Yep, he fucks us over. Red plans on selling Nick out for the bounty. He's a dickhead who screwed his own people over for his golden parachute, even kidnapping Annie and Isabella to really rub the salt in the wound. I knew this guy was a dick. Let's murder him. Nick frees Isabella and Annie going off to finish Red on his own. And like I said, for some reason, this is really satisfying. Not even just because he's a greedy traitor who tried to kill us, something about this guy makes me really want to see him dead. Anyway, he gets crushed by a storage container.
What happened to you, Red? Everybody got some shit. Everybody gets shit. I wanted it to be my time. But you're right about one thing. What? It is your time.
Annie's actually the one who drops it on him. Awesome. So we fix the plane, save the girls again, and nothing can stop us from escaping Los Perdidos. We can finally close out this game. Sure, the military's giving vague statements about a plan they still have that's in motion, but who cares? We can finally get out of here. We even meet Annie's dad. Wait a minute. Wait a second. That's Chuck Green. Dead Rising 2 Chuck Green. He's calling Annie Katie.
Dad, I'm sorry.
Katie Ann Green, where have you been?
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Yeah, Annie is actually Katie. Dead Rising 2 Katie. Reminder that the games in the beginning sorta kinda followed a real-time system between releases. First game was in 2006, so the game took place in 2006. Last game was in 2010, so the story took place in 2010. Dead Rising 3 jumps forward 10 years despite coming out in 2013, so the story took place around 2019 or the 2020s, meaning 8-year-old Katie is now 18. It also explains why the orphans that Carlito sent out are all adults now, because enough time has passed for them to grow up. We can just assume they were all experimented on to have their parasites activate at different times to keep the threat of the outbreaks unpredictable. It also gives enough time for Chuck to become I guess, a crime boss? Which is kinda weird, but it actually does make a bit of sense. He would do literally anything to protect Katie, so he would resort to anything to make sure she always had Zombrex. And no doubt Phenotrance was hunting the two at every step since the Fortune City outbreak, so he resorted to the criminal life. But this also means Red's a pedophile, because he dated Katie a few years for the events of the game, and this dude's clearly like 30 or so.
Nick.
Annie?
Red and I, we used to be together a long time ago. We're not now. He's still weird about it sometimes.
So yeah, we were fully justified to kill him. And no, this is not Cope. Shut up. No one touches the girl we gave a tiger to. Anyway, yeah, Katie is, well, Katie. That's neat. That also means Nick better be on his best behavior. Chuck will hurt him very badly if he fumbles this. Still, it seems like all is well that ends well. Everyone's reunited with their loved ones, the groomer is dead, and we can finally escape Los Perdidos. Feels like I keep saying that over and over again. I also like that Katie ran away because she felt guilty about what she made Chuck do to get her Zombrex. She doesn't hate Chuck, she just didn't want to be a burden to him. Daddy issues that aren't annoying or made to tear down Chuck? Hell yeah. Of course, since Nick went through his character arc, he decides to mouth off to Chuck.
I'm sorry, I saw what it was doing to you, the pressure to keep me unregistered and to find Zombrex all the time. It wrecks people, that drug. I didn't want to burden you anymore.
You've never been a burden to me, honey. It's not your fault what happened to me. I'm the one who's the burden. I'm not proud of what I've done. God, I've been looking for you for so long.
You're the man Gary works for. I'm not letting Annie go with some thug. I don't give a shit if she is your daughter. She's not your property.
I've been looking for my daughter for 2 years. And now there's a zombie outbreak like the one that killed her mother. You don't know what that's like. Who the hell is this?
Nick Ramos. Who are you?
Nick, that is not a good idea. This guy is really dangerous. Oh, Rhonda and Gary are here too, so it's a big happy reunion. Of course, they're only really here to help get the plane started. They still intend to stay, gathering all the survivors we saved and trucking them out of town. Yeah, these two are great. Really happy they didn't die. The group flies out, and that's the ending of Dead Rising 3. Of course, that's not the ending. Yep, we still have overtime mode, a staple to the franchise. If you clear the main story with the right conditions, you get an extra chapter to complete that gives you the true ending. Dead Rising 2 being the only real exception, since that goes off the idea you didn't give TK Zombrex, though you can still headcanon it to make the true ending work. TK turned and followed Chuck after the events of the arena, and he was still bit either way. We can probably assume death lets the parasite take over the brain. Whatever, it's fine. Still, the overtime mode for Dead Rising 3 is telegraphed from a mile away. All the references to the military still having a larger plan? Yeah, they have a larger plan.
God damn, man. We're finally getting out of here.
Collection time is prime. Expect minimal resistance.
Collection time?
Only when retrieval has been completed will we commence destruction of the city.
That's Hemlock.
The most powerful weapon of mass destruction known to mankind is almost in our grasp.
Nick overhears Hemlock organizing an operation to harvest the mutant zombies around the city, so Chuck and Nick team up to put a stop to the evil plot. Not gonna lie, that's really cool. They even play the guitar riff from 2.
Not quite sure what my daughter sees in you. You want to impress me? Here's your chance.
And Chuck follows you as a companion that helps you kill zombies. You're cheating, Capcom. You can't just dangle Peek in front of me like that. If you throw in Frank as a third-party member, I'll be forced to suck your dick for eternity. But you also find out what happened to Stacy after Dead Rising 2. Chuck fumbled her.
Reminds me of Fortune City. I met a girl during a zombie outbreak myself way back then.
Still in touch?
Her name was Stacy. I messed that one up too real good. Katie never forgave me for that.
Yep, saw that coming. Still, overtime mode involves following Hemlock's aircraft and stopping them from harvesting king zombies. It's relatively simple. Just shoot the drones that try to fly down and snatch zombies. There's also a scene that reveals Hemlock fully intends on population control, starting outbreaks as his way of controlling the country and weaponizing the zombies against his enemies. He also kills Marion.
Marion, don't you understand? We'll create outbreaks anywhere we want to. We can control where it goes. And when we're done, we'll kill the kings. It'll wipe out the population, but leave all the infrastructure. It'll be like the neutron bomb I always dreamed of.
It is nothing without the cure.
Oh, this cure thing is bullshit! It's a goddamn myth, Marion. Bitch and her brother made it all up to taunt you. Don't throw our lives away on this.
Oh, don't be so pathetic. You're so weak. You make me sick.
would have been good to you, Marion. It's not like any other man would have you.
Huh. Yeah, he just, throws her off a building. Because she still wanted to find Nick and get the cure. Hemlock thinks that's stupid and chucks her down to the concrete. That's sudden and anticlimactic. The story was building up Marion as the final real big bad, so letting Hemlock kill her feels a tad cheap. I mean, the actual dynamic between the two is kinda interesting, having this sort of twisted romance. Would have been cool to see more of that, since Hemlock as an actual character is... he's just kind of there. He's an evil military guy like that dude at the end of 1. Marion was the one who got the focus because she's been built up since Case West. It would have been cool to see what a boss battle with her could have been like. Granted, we've already fought the giant metal crane, so they can't do that again. But maybe like a mech suit? A super zombie she controls? I don't know, it just feels like a waste we don't get to be the ones to kill her. Whatever, we're almost at the end of the game anyway. You stop the evil bad guy's evil plan and his aircraft crashes. So here's your final boss, General Hemlock. He's the Dead Rising boss. Yep. Anyway, he dies, because Nick kicks him into a propeller that turns him into paint.
Your lady friend Marion was right. I am the cure. Carlito made me immune.
You think you got it all figured out, don't you? You know nothing!
Well, here's something I do know. There is no cure for this.
Fuck you!
Okay, Hemlock is boring as a bad guy, but that's a metal death. Very good stuff. And with that, the game is finally over. For good. Like, this is the actual ending. The day is saved, the cure is found, Nick gets the girl. Hell yeah. It all worked out. We're big grand heroes now. It's actually over. Happy ending. Isabella had to go to her lab to find something, but nothing is keeping us from escaping. The end text even confirms that Nick's immunity was the key to finding a cure. Fuck yeah, no more bait and switches. No cliffhangers, just a solid happy ending. Even if the end credits screen bugged out a bit and you can see Nick in the background standing there. But what was Isabella looking for in her lab? Well, remember when I said that a character gets flanderized a tiny bit? Or a big bit? Yeah, the after credit scene reveals that Isabella was the one who proposed the idea of starting the outbreak. She was willing to sacrifice an entire city to find Nick, seeing it as the ends justify the means.
You're insane. Starting an outbreak to find the immune one? It makes no sense. It will kill thousands, including the orphan. No.
It's the only way, Marion. I know he's out there somewhere. Those lives are inconsequential compared to the cure. That's why I've continued to work with you. That's why I've stayed here, voluntarily, to find a cure. In an outbreak, the orphan will realize his immunity and come forward, and your friend Hemlock might find it convenient as well.
Oh, you're jealous of my work. You always have been. You're so desperate to find your mark.
You think you walk again? You think you'll be cured?
Shut up! You're lucky I didn't take your legs as well. If they hadn't stopped me...
I will be the one who goes down in history as the creator of the cure. Me, and me alone, not you. I don't care what I have to do to find it.
This is really shitty. Isabella already went through her arc in Dead Rising 1, where she understood that mentality solves nothing. It just perpetuates more horror and suffering. So having her be obsessed with rebuilding her family's reputation, to the point of killing thousands again, just feels cheap. Cheaper than even how Marion dies. I guess they wanted to open things up for a sequel, let Isabella become a kinda new big bad, but they already established the cure works. There's not much point there, because obviously Isabella isn't going to willingly experiment with the parasite again. She wants to bury this whole thing for good. Yeah, she was complacent with the Willamette outbreak, but the entire point of that was that she was manipulated by Carlito. Her redemption was helping Frank find the truth and develop the prototype Zombrex. Her penance was being forced to work with Marion under threat of death. She was already punished for what she did, and the whole point is that she was trying to save as many people as she could while still being a slave to Phenotrans. Helping Chuck and Frank find the facility and discover Phenotrans was organizing outbreaks and experimenting on people, that was her idea. I'm really not a fan of this twist. It feels like it's there just to be there, because why wouldn't Marion do it all on her own? The sociopathic CEO of a company that already caused a previous outbreak for her own gain? Did they need a new face for the franchise now that Phenotrans was defeated? Because you didn't really need to drag a legacy character into it for that. Especially when the twist involves making her dumber, because like I said, Nick could have died a million different ways from all sorts of reasons that had nothing to do with zombies. He could have been shot, like from the numerous Special Forces soldiers that were opening fire on him, or the bikers that wanted to kill him. He could have been eaten. Since the zombies don't seem to give a shit about whether or not he's immune, they still want to kill him. He could have been run over. He could have been set on fire. Zombie outbreaks are chaotic. You can't just pluck someone out in the middle of one. This whole thing just feels bitter, and not in a good way, in a character assassination sort of way. Still, that's Dead Rising 3. Obviously, there's some alternate endings you can get as well, but they're all pretty much fail states. Ending C. You get this if you kill Gary at the club instead of going to save Rhonda. This is such a weird condition, a lot of players genuinely didn't even know you could do it. Obviously, you wouldn't think that you could kill Gary, and the objective marker says you have to go find Rhonda. Yeah, it's like when Red says you can sneak into the military base or disguise yourself. It's easy to think that's just dialogue in a cutscene, but no, it's an actual option. It's cool to hide a bad ending behind something you wouldn't think to do first. Still, the ending is that the plane stalls and they can't get it working in time before a bunch of zombies come to kill everyone. Downer ending. Ending D, another sort of hidden one, where you try to go to the plane before going to save Katie. Nick tries to steal the plane for himself and the rest of the gang leave him behind as they fly off. Hemlock gets his weapon, and once again, everything is fucked for good. Another funny case of including a detail most players probably wouldn't even think to do. Ending F. Everyone dies. You ran out of time, city's firebomb, get shit on, loser. Now, the overtime mode also has a bad ending, basically the ending Z, but it amounts to failing to stop them from harvesting the zombies. Hemlock gets away and bombs the city. The only real difference here is that you can reload a checkpoint and try again, this one being the most obvious failure rather than a full ending. Now, another ending that's pretty well known but never actually included in the game is Ending X. This was an early concept that focused on the survivor system. You could actually choose to murder survivors in an early build, and the game would address it, the ending having the rest of the group beat Nick to death by a group of angry survivors. Kind of a joke ending that I'm actually sad wasn't introduced. This could have been a funny punchline to a Psychopath run where you kill every side survivor. Still, that's all the endings. So is it time to wrap it up? Not yet. Yeah, we need to talk about the DLC. You have a few DLC packs that came later in the game's lifespan, an arcade mode that focused on killing zombies with some fun gimmicks, like having a Street Fighter collab that, honestly, that was pretty cool. And you can play as other characters from the game, even Frank West. The other DLC packs are a bit more interesting, since they tie into the main story. The episodes of Los Perdidos. These are short mini-campaigns that explain some things you might have noticed during your playthrough. There's 4 separate episodes, each one focusing on a different character, and all have their own role and connection to the main plot. You have a Special Forces operative that was helping Hemlock with his plan. He's the guy that kidnaps the president and actually infected the safe houses around the open world. And you see he betrays the government and holds on to evidence proving their responsibility. You have an illegal that discovers the Special Forces soldiers executing survivors. This is actually the source Red and Annie were going to meet when she was killed. A ZDC operative that discovers how the chips were shut off and works to save as many survivors as he can, evacuating everyone out of the city, which shows how they're able to get out instead of sticking with Nick. And the last one is probably the most interesting, focusing on the biker psychopath Hunter. You see that he was in prison during the outbreak and he got out, searching for revenge against his gang for betraying him. It's a cool concept, and the backstory to this guy that we saw as just an over-the-top villain, having his own story to tell that shows he could have been a protagonist himself in a different timeline. Regardless, all of the episodes suffer the same problem. They're pretty mindless, and quickly outstay their welcome. If you don't vibe with each character's gimmick, you will get bored fast, since the focus is on clearing out all of their side objectives. The amount of main missions you can do with them are really short, each one's maybe 2 to 3 hours to complete. And their side content basically means going from district to district, clearing out whatever's on your open map, saving survivors, smashing cameras. It gets pretty repetitive. I wouldn't say these are wastes of time, since you do get fun background details in the main story, and it will bump you up in levels, but I wouldn't lie and say they're fantastic. Play one at a time, because trying to speed through them all got really dull really fast. To the point, I just stopped trying to do all the side objectives just because they got tedious and annoying. Hunter has probably the worst one, going from each district to steal motorcycles, one at a time, and bringing them back to a singular shop. It was glorified fetch quests that took way too long and had way too many bikes to steal. It was not worth it. Still, that's Dead Rising 3. Finally. Fully. Yeah, it's a flawed gem. Moments of genuine kick-ass stacked up next to things that were half thought out and downright bad. This was definitely a rocky step forward for the series. Not the worst thing ever, but absolutely something that divided fans. Some people loved the game, others could immediately smell something was wrong. Now, I don't hate Dead Rising 3. It's still pretty damn fun to sit down and play. It still feels like a Dead Rising game more than once. It just has a design philosophy that's full of holes and contradictory elements. It wanted to be bigger and better while still trapped by its central gameplay loop. of being a tightly designed time attack game about balancing multiple plates. It couldn't decide between one or the other, so it kinda just ended up being neither. You can't forget the story and go on a rampage because you will have reminders the timer is running. You can't speed through everything trying to beat the clock because the leeway's too wide to really feel the pressure. It's in this weird spot where it clearly has an identity crisis. It still leagues better than a lot of other zombie games out there, and I'm not ashamed to call it a Dead Rising game, but it's flawed. Flawed to a degree that's pretty obvious even to non-fans. And aficionados of the series probably won't like a lot of the story decisions and blatant flanderization it has certain characters. Hell, I got friends that hate what they did with Katie and Chuck, not even mentioning Isabella. It's an unfortunate game. Not good enough to be beloved, not hated enough to be infamous. It's just there to cap off a trilogy. Without it, the game doesn't really have much to stand on. If you're not already invested in Dead Rising and its world, I can't really see this working for you beyond being a mindless zombie killing thing. But what can you do? Well, there's something else on the horizon. Something great and terrible. A leviathan of horror that's been sitting at the precipice. It's waiting for us. Dead Rising 4. The bad one. Oh boy. Yeah, next go around is not gonna be fun. This is gonna suck. Hard. But do you know what doesn't suck? Gamer subs, use code TAL at checkout. This is supposed to be a Halloween video. Use the code. I'm super late on this. Use the code. Use the code or Dead Rising 4 doesn't come out until 2030. Use the code. Use the code. Yep, next chapter in this series is going to be hell, but some of you might like that, so I guess tune in for when we cover Dead Rising 4. The words already make me want to vomit. Still, see you guys. Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're going to be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's going to look at you funny. There's going to be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I'm now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're gonna plant crack in your house, and they're gonna arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.